The night was quiet, and the big house stood like a silent giant. Most of the lights were off because everyone had already gone to sleep. Only one person was still awake, Mr. Kareem, a well-known billionaire who had just returned from a long business meeting. He walked slowly through the hallway of his mansion, thinking about numbers, deals, and tomorrow's deadlines. His mind was full, and all he wanted was some rest. As he passed the back area of the house, something unusual caught his attention. A tiny light, very soft, very weak, was shining through a small window near the servants' quarters. At first, he thought it was just a phone left on charge. But something about that dim light made him stop. It felt out of place in a house where every room usually had bright lights, clean floors, and beautiful furniture. Curious. He walked closer. The window was small, almost hidden, but when he leaned forward, he saw something that made him freeze. Inside the room, sitting on the floor, was a little girl no older than 12. She was the maid's daughter, Aisha. Her head was bent over a schoolbook, and she was studying with intense focus. But what shocked Kareem was the source of her light. There was no lamp, no bulb, no lantern. Aisha was studying using the faint glow of her old mobile phone. The screen was cracked, and its light was so weak that it barely lit up her book. Yet she tried again and again, moving the phone around so she could see each line. She looked tired, but determined. The room around her was dark, completely dark, except for that tiny piece of light she held in her hand. Kareem blinked. He had never seen something like this in his own home. He had seen fancy lights, expensive chandeliers, modern lamps, but never a child trying to study in the dark with an almost dead phone. For a moment, he thought maybe the electricity had tripped, but the rest of the house had lights. Only this small room was dark. A quiet sadness touched him. He pushed the door slightly open. It made a soft sound, and Aisha looked up, her eyes wide like she had been caught doing something wrong. She quickly turned off the phone and stood up, holding her book behind her back. "Sir, I am sorry," she whispered, afraid. Kareem gently shook his head. "Why are you studying like this? Where is your light?" Aisha looked down at the floor. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "The electricity finished, sir. Mama said we need to wait for next month to pay the bill. I didn't want to trouble her, so I am studying like this." Her words were simple, honest, and carried no complaint. There was no anger, no frustration, only quiet acceptance. Kareem looked around the room. It was small, with only 2 old beds, a broken study table, and a single shelf. The walls had cracks. The air felt heavy. He realized he had never stepped inside this room before. He had always stayed in the comfortable parts of his mansion, the big rooms, the wide halls, the bright lights. He never knew his maid's family lived like this. "How long have you been studying like this?" he asked softly. Aisha looked at her hands. 2 weeks, sir. Every night?" She nodded. "And your phone battery?" "It will finish. I charge it in the afternoon, sir, but it's old. The battery drains fast. Sometimes I finish homework before it dies. Sometimes I don't." Her small smile tried to hide her struggle, but it only made Kareem feel heavier inside. "Why study so late?" he asked again. Aisha swallowed. "Because after school, I help Mama with work. I wash dishes, clean the floor, help her cook food. When she sleeps, I study. I want to become a doctor one day, sir." Her dream felt bigger than the room she lived in. Kareem had many children of rich families who had every resource, every book, every tutor. Many didn't care about school. But here, in this simple room, stood a girl who fought for her dream every night, using only a cracked phone as her lamp. He didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long time, the billionaire felt his heart ache. Aisha took a step back. "I am sorry if the light disturbed you, sir." "It didn't," he said softly. "You can continue studying." Then he walked out slowly, closing the door behind him. But he didn't go to his room. He stayed in the hallway for a moment, staring at the floor, feeling something heavy but also important rising inside him. He had all the power, all the money, all the comfort. Yet he had never noticed the silent struggles happening right inside his own home. He thought about Aisha, her quiet focus, her cracked phone, her dream of becoming a doctor. And right there, in that quiet night, he made a decision. A decision that would change not only Aisha's life, but also shock everyone who knew him. A billionaire had seen something he could no longer ignore, and now he was going to do something about it. The next morning, the sun filled the mansion with warm light. The house staff walked around doing their jobs as usual, but inside Mr. Kareem's mind, things were not the same. He kept seeing the picture from last night. Aisha sitting on the floor, studying in the dark with a weak phone light. Her small hands holding a cracked screen. Her quiet voice saying she wanted to become a doctor. He had slept, but that image had not left him. While having breakfast, he barely touched his food. His assistant noticed something was off but didn't dare ask. Kareem usually began his mornings with phone calls and reports, but today, he kept staring at the window like his mind was somewhere far away. Finally, after a long breath, he stood up and walked toward the servants' quarters. Safina, the maid, was sweeping the floor. When she saw her boss approaching, she immediately stood straight, nervous. It was unusual for him to come there personally. "Good morning, sir," she said quickly, unsure if she had made some mistake. Kareem's voice was calm. "Safina, I want to speak with you." She swallowed hard. "Sir, if anything was wrong yesterday..." "No," he said softly. "I only want to understand something." She looked confused but nodded. He gestured for her to sit, but Safina didn't dare. So he gently said again, "Please sit." Safina slowly sat on the edge of the old wooden chair. Kareem took a seat across from her, something he had never done before. The power difference between them was huge, yet his tone was warm, almost friendly. "I saw Aisha studying last night," he began. Safina's heart dropped. She quickly said, "Sir, I told her many times not to trouble anyone. She should study earlier." "I'm sorry if she caused any." "She caused nothing," Kareem said firmly. "She was studying. That is not trouble." Safina looked down, embarrassed. Her hands trembled. "But why was there no light?" he asked softly. She hesitated. Her eyes filled with worry. "Sir, last month, I had to choose between buying food and paying the electricity bill. So I paid for food. The bill is pending. The electricity company cut the line 2 weeks ago." Kareem silently absorbed her words. Safina continued, her voice breaking. "I clean houses all day, sir, but my salary is small. I also send money to my parents in the village. Things are costly. I try my best." Kareem didn't interrupt. He only listened. Safina wiped her eyes quickly, trying not to cry. "Aisha is a good girl. She wants to study. She helps me with everything. I want to give her a better life, but some things are not in my hands." She looked away to hide her pain. Kareem felt something inside him shift again. He had built companies, handled billion-money decisions, but now, sitting across from this struggling mother, he felt a different kind of responsibility. "What is Aisha's dream?" he asked gently. Safina smiled weakly. "She wants to become a doctor. She says she wants to help other people the way no one helped us. Sometimes I think she is dreaming too big, but she never loses hope." Kareem leaned back thinking. He remembered her face from last night, tired, focused, glowing slightly in the weak phone light. He had never seen such determination in a child. "Does she get good grades?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Safina replied proudly. "She always comes first or second in her class. Her teachers say she is very intelligent." Kareem nodded slowly. The picture was becoming clear. He stood up. Tell Aisha to meet me in my office room after lunch. Safina froze. Is she in trouble, sir? Not at all, he replied. I just want to talk to her. Safina nodded nervously, but her heart felt warm. A small part of her hoped this meeting could change something. Later that day, Aisha stood outside the office room, clutching her worn-out school bag tightly. Her hands were shaking. She had never spoken to the billionaire directly before. She worried she had done something wrong by studying at night. Inside, Kareem was waiting, reviewing some documents. But his mind was not on work when Aisha entered. She quietly said, "Good afternoon, sir." He smiled gently. "Come in, Aisha. Don't be scared." She stepped forward slowly. Her eyes lowered. "I saw you studying last night," he said. She nodded with a shy expression. "Why didn't you tell anyone that the electricity was cut?" he asked. "I didn't want Mama to feel sad," Aisha whispered. "She works very hard. I don't want to make more problems for her." Her words were soft but powerful. Kareem felt a wave of admiration. Most adults blamed others for their problems, but this child hid her struggle to protect her mother's feelings. "What do you want to become when you grow up?" he asked. "A doctor, sir," she said immediately. "I want to help people who cannot afford medicine. I want to help children who don't have proper light to study. Like me." Kareem's chest tightened. This girl didn't dream for herself alone, she dreamed for others too. "You study every night?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Even if it is dark, I try my best." Her simple answer moved his heart again. He leaned forward and said softly, "Aisha, dreams like yours should not stop because of small problems. I want to help you. But I want you to promise me one thing." Aisha looked up nervously. "What promise, sir?" "Promise me that you will keep working hard and never stop believing in your dream." Aisha nodded quickly. "I promise, sir." Kareem smiled warmly. At that moment, he made a quiet decision. A big decision. He would make sure that Aisha had everything she needed for her education. Light, books, school fees, supplies, everything. But he would do it silently. No one needed to know. And he would never let Aisha feel small because of his help. This was only the beginning. After Aisha left the office room, the atmosphere around Kareem felt different. Her small voice, her strong promise, and her brave smile stayed in his mind like an echo. He sat back in his chair, staring at the sunlight coming through the large window. For the first time in many years, business reports and profits did not matter. Something else was pulling at his thoughts, something far more human. He picked up his phone, opened the contact list, and called his personal secretary. "Cancel my next meeting," he said. The secretary sounded shocked. Kareem never canceled meetings. But he didn't explain anything. He simply hung up and walked toward his study room. Inside the study room, he closed the door gently. He didn't want anyone to overhear his plans. This was something he wanted to do quietly, without noise, without showing off. Helping Aisha felt personal, not business. He sat at the desk and opened his laptop. First, he searched for nearby schools and scholarships. Then he wrote a list on a small notebook. Pay electricity bill quietly. Buy a study table, buy a proper lamp, new books, school fees, extra classes for her dream. It felt like planning a secret mission. He smiled to himself. Small things for me, but big things for her. A visit to the servant quarter later that evening. When most of the staff were busy, Kareem walked toward the servant quarters again. This time, he wanted to look around properly, not as the owner of the house, but as someone who wanted to understand their life. The room looked exactly like it did last night, simple, plain, with only a few things inside. The broken table, the old shelf, the thin mattress, and the silent darkness. He imagined Aisha sitting here every night, trying her best to read words she could barely see. He imagined her mother, fighting every day to provide for her child. The thought made his chest tighten. How many people in this house have dreams like hers? He whispered to himself, but he knew one thing. Aisha deserved a chance. That night, he made his first move. He called the electricity company from his private office phone. "There's a pending bill for this address," he said. "Clear it immediately." The company representative asked for confirmation. "Sir, it will be done tomorrow morning." Kareem replied firmly, "Do it today." Within 2 hours, the electricity company restored the connection. When Safina turned on the light switch and saw the room brighten for the first time in 2 weeks, she covered her mouth in shock. Aisha jumped with joy. "Mama, look, the light is back." Safina didn't know how it happened. The bill was too big for her to pay. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, but she did not know who had helped. And that was exactly how Kareem wanted it. The next day, Kareem visited a bookstore on his way to a meeting. His assistant was confused because Kareem never did his own shopping. But today was different. He picked out textbooks, notebooks, pencils, markers, a geometry box, and even a science kit for children. When the shopkeeper asked if he needed help choosing, Kareem simply said, "These are for a student. Make sure everything is good quality." He also visited a furniture shop and ordered a strong study table with a comfortable chair. He chose a bright white lamp with adjustable settings, perfect for studying at night. Before leaving, he told the shop owner, "Send everything to my mansion, but deliver it quietly. No noise, no questions." The owner nodded quickly. No one argued with a billionaire. Later that week, Kareem called Aisha again. When she entered the room, she looked a little less shy than before. Her hair was tied neatly, and she carried her school bag on her back. "How is your studying going?" he asked. She smiled. "Better, sir. The light is back." "It helps a lot." He acted surprised. "Really? That's good to hear." She didn't know he was the reason, and that made him feel warm inside. "What subject do you like the most?" he asked. "Science, sir," she said immediately. "I like learning how the body works and how medicine helps people." Kareem nodded. "That's perfect for someone who wants to become a doctor." Aisha looked down shyly but proudly. He then opened a drawer and took out a small box wrapped in plain paper. "This is for you." Aisha hesitated. "For me, sir?" "Yes, it's just something small to help with your studies." She opened the box slowly. Inside she found new notebooks, good pencils, a geometry set, and a science kit. Her eyes grew wide. They're beautiful," she whispered softly. "You deserve good tools for your hard work," Kareem said. For a moment, Aisha didn't speak. Her throat felt tight. "Thank you, sir. I will work even harder." Kareem smiled. "That's all I want." After Aisha left, he leaned back in his chair. Her happiness was pure, simple, and full of hope. It made him feel something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose not driven by money, but by kindness. He whispered to himself, "I will help her reach her dream, no matter what." This wasn't charity. This wasn't pity. This was a promise, quiet but strong. A quiet decision that would soon grow into something much bigger. Something that would surprise everyone who knew him. The next week arrived like a fresh breeze, carrying small but powerful changes into Aisha's life. She didn't know exactly how things were improving, but she felt something new around her, something bright, something hopeful. Every morning she woke up to a room with light. Not just bulb light, hope light. She could see her books clearly. She could study before sunrise. For the first time in many months, her mother did not worry about the electricity bill the moment she opened her eyes. Aisha started her day with a smile. Now that alone was a big change. 2 days later, a quiet delivery truck arrived at the mansion. The guard at the gate opened it because the order came under Kareem's instructions. The deliveryman carefully carried a flat-packed wooden table, a comfortable chair, and a bright study lamp. They were told to place it in the servant quarters and leave immediately. Safina came home from her morning cleaning shift to find a brand new study table in the corner of the room. She nearly dropped the basket she was holding. Ya Allah! What is this? She whispered. Aisha ran forward, her face glowing. Mama, look. This is for studying. There's even a lamp. It's so bright. Safina touched the table gently like she was touching something too precious. She had never owned anything this new in her life, but who sent it? She asked the deliverman, but he only smiled shyly. Ma'am, we were told not to say anything. It's from someone in the house. Safina's heart beat fast. Someone in the house? Who could it be? Her eyes softened as she whispered a small prayer, but she still didn't know the truth. Aisha didn't care who sent it. She just felt grateful. That night, she sat at her new table like a child walking into her first dream. She placed her books neatly, switched on the lamp, and saw the page shine clear and bright. For the first time ever, she studied without squinting, without holding a broken phone, without fear that the screen would turn off. It was a simple thing, but it lit up her whole world. At school, Aisha's teachers noticed something different. She raised her hand more often. She answered questions with more confidence. She finished her homework neatly, with clean handwriting. One day, her science teacher called Safina for a parent meeting. When Safina came, nervous as always, the teacher greeted her with a warm smile. Your daughter is doing extremely well, the teacher said. Her progress has improved a lot in just 1 week. She scored the highest in her science quiz. Safina blinked in surprise. Really? Yes, she has a special spark. If she continues like this, she can go very far. Safina felt tears forming. She worked hard every day, but she always feared her daughter would suffer because of their situation. Hearing this praise felt like someone lifting a heavy stone from her heart. When she returned home that evening, she hugged Aisha tightly. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Aisha hugged her back. I'm trying my best, Mama. Safina didn't know that someone else was quietly helping her daughter too. Someone watching from a distance with a gentle heart. Meanwhile, Kareem heard updates through the house staff. She got first position in her quiz. She participates in class now. The teachers can see her talent. He didn't ask for these updates, but the staff whispered among themselves. News travels fast in a mansion. Whenever Kareem heard something positive, he smiled a little. He didn't want Aisha to know he was the reason behind her new study table or the new books. He didn't want her to feel pressure or obligation. He only wanted her to grow, quietly and naturally. In the evenings, he sometimes walked past the servant quarters again, not to spy, but to reassure himself that she was okay. One night, he paused near the window. Inside, he saw Aisha sitting upright, reading with full concentration, the white lamp shining like a small sun on her desk. She didn't know he was there, but he felt proud. For the first time in many years, he felt like he wasn't just a businessman. He was a human being doing something meaningful. He whispered to himself, this is how change begins. Quietly. A few days later, Aisha entered a local science competition. Her project was simple, a model of the human heart, but she explained it better than anyone else. She won first prize. The neighborhood children stared at the trophy she brought home. Aisha won again? Wow, she studied so hard. People who once ignored her now noticed her talent. Some even congratulated Safina. Even though Safina felt proud, she also felt curious. How did everything change so quickly? How did her daughter suddenly have everything she needed to thrive? She asked the guard, the cook, the cleaner. But nobody knew anything. Because Kareem had kept his promise, everything was to be done quietly. Every passing day, Aisha's confidence grew. She laughed more. She studied more. She dreamed more. At night, when she switched on her lamp and opened her books, She felt like she was stepping into a brighter version of her life, a life she once thought was too far from her reach. She didn't know a billionaire was watching over her like a silent guardian. She didn't know her hard work was being supported by someone she barely understood. But she did know one thing. Her dream of becoming a doctor no longer felt impossible, and the real change had only just begun. A new week began, and things seemed normal around the mansion. The staff worked as usual, the gardeners trimmed the plants, and Kareem attended his business meetings. But behind the quiet routine, something big was about to happen, something that would reveal the secret he had kept so carefully. It all started on a bright afternoon when a large delivery truck arrived at the gate once again. The guard checked the list and recognized the order. It was from the same supplier who had delivered the study table earlier that week. Inside the truck were several boxes, textbooks, a new school bag, a lunchbox, a uniform set, and a small shelf for keeping books. Everything was neatly packed and labeled with Aisha's name. The deliveryman walked toward the servant quarters while speaking loudly on the phone. Double quotes, yes, yes. Deliver everything to the mansion of Mr. Kareem. Yes, boss said everything is for the maid's daughter. Yes, the billionaire. His order, yes. He didn't know anyone was listening. Safina, who had stepped outside to hang laundry, froze when she heard those words. The clothes slipped from her hands. She slowly turned toward the deliveryman. For the maid's daughter? She asked softly. The deliveryman smiled politely. Yes, madam. The order says it's from Mr. Kareem. Everything is purchased under his name. Safina stood completely still, her heart beating faster than ever. Mr. Kareem? The billionaire? Her own boss? Before she could react, the deliveryman and his assistant carried the boxes into the small room. They placed them beside Aisha's study table and left. Safina walked inside slowly, her eyes shaking as she looked at the new things: a new uniform, a strong school bag, fresh textbooks, a shelf for keeping notes. Everything a child would need. And more. She felt overwhelmed. She sat down on the old chair and covered her mouth with her hands as tears gently gathered in her eyes. How is this possible? She whispered. Aisha returns home. Aisha came home from school a few minutes later. She rushed inside excitedly, expecting her usual evening routine. But when she saw the boxes, she stopped in shock. Mama, who brought this? Is this for me? Safina nodded slowly, still unable to speak. Aisha opened the boxes with trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she touched the brand new school bag and shiny new uniform. These things must be expensive, she said softly. But who gave them? Safina took a deep breath. She knew her daughter deserved the truth. She leaned forward, held Aisha's small hands and said, Beta, these things, they were ordered by the owner of the house, by Sir Kareem. Aisha blinked several times, confused. Sir Kareem? But why? Safina's voice cracked. Because he saw your hard work. He saw you studying in the dark. He saw your effort. He must have felt something in his heart. Aisha's face softened with surprise. He helped us. Quietly? Quietly, Safina repeated, tears rolling down her cheeks. Without telling anyone. Without asking for anything. Without making us feel small. Aisha felt something warm inside her chest. She had always respected Kareem, but now she felt something different: deep gratitude. Safina felt she couldn't keep quiet anymore. She needed to thank him properly. She wiped her tears, gathered her courage, and walked toward the mansion. Her hands were shaking, but her heart was full. She found Kareem in the hallway, speaking to one of his managers. When he saw her standing nervously at the doorway, he ended the conversation and walked toward her. Yes, Safina? Is everything all right? He asked gently. Safina lowered her head respectfully. Sir, I found out. The deliverman. He said everything was ordered by you. Kareem paused. For a second, he didn't know what to say. I told them to keep it quiet, he said softly. Tears filled Safina's eyes again. Sir, why? Why would a person like you help people like us? Kareem inhaled deeply. Then he said something that touched her soul. Because talent should not stop because of money, he replied. And dreams should not break because of darkness. Safina covered her mouth again. Sir, we don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, he said firmly. This is not charity. This is just a little support for a child who works hard. Safina wiped her tears. Asisha will never forget your kindness. Kareem nodded. I don't want her to feel pressure. Just let her keep studying. Let her dream freely. His words were soft, but powerful. That evening, Aisha gathered her courage and knocked on Kareem's office door. He looked up with surprise. Aisha, everything all right? She stepped inside slowly, holding the new school bag close to her chest. Sir. Thank you, she whispered. For the books. For the bag. For everything. I don't know how to thank you. Kareem shook his head. You don't have to thank me. Just promise me one thing. Aisha looked up. What, sir? Promise me that you will continue your hard work. Promise me you will never stop dreaming. Asisha's eyes shone. I promise. He smiled warmly. Good, then that is enough for me. Whispers spread through the house. The staff had overheard bits and pieces. They whispered things like, Sir Kareem bought things for the maid's daughter? He must have a soft heart. He actually cares about people. The story spread, but not as gossip as admiration. People saw a new side of Kareem. Not a billionaire with power, but a human being with kindness. And this was only the beginning. A few days passed after the truth came out, and life inside the mansion slowly settled back into its routine. But outside the servant quarters, whispers had begun to grow. The staff talked among themselves in low voices. Some were amazed by Kareem's kindness. Some admired him deeply. But others, unfortunately, did not understand. Kindness is simple, but not everyone knows how to accept it. One afternoon, Safina was cleaning the hallway when two staff members passed behind her. I heard Sir bought a whole study setup for the maid's daughter, one whispered. Yes, everything brand new. Can you believe it? The other murmured, but why? There are many poor children. Why only her? Safina's heart tightened as she kept sweeping in silence. She knew gossip would come, but she hoped it would be small. Still, she ignored the whispers and continued her work. But things didn't stop there. The next weekend, Kareem attended a small family gathering. It was supposed to be a peaceful dinner, but one of his relatives, Mr. Roth, raised the topic unexpectedly. I heard you're supporting the maid's daughter, he said with a smirk. Buying her school things. Paying bills. A few people turned their heads, listening. Kareem answered calmly, Yes, I helped her. She works very hard. His relative frowned. Brother, you are a billionaire. People talk. They will say strange things. Why take such responsibility? Kareem raised an eyebrow. Strange things? For helping a child. His relative leaned closer. You don't need to get so involved. You're a busy man. Don't let people misunderstand. Kareem sipped his water and replied, If people misunderstand kindness, then the problem is theirs, not mine. The table went silent. Another family friend spoke, confused. But why did you help her? You already pay salaries. Isn't that enough? Kareem put the glass down gently. Salaries keep life going. Education changes life completely. Someone else added, What if others ask for the same? It will become a habit. Kareem replied firmly, If another child shows the same effort Aisha has shown, I will help them too. Not because of duty, but because it is the right thing to do. This time, there was respect in the silence. Some relatives looked down, rethinking their opinions. Others simply stayed quiet because they had nothing more to say. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, a different type of gossip was spreading. Some staff praised Kareem. He has such a big heart. He helped them without telling anyone. Others misunderstood. Maybe he is doing it for show. Maybe he wants attention. Why would a rich man care about a maid's daughter? But the one thing no one dared to question was Asisha's talent. Every person in the house had seen her studying late at night. Every person knew she was hardworking. Still, rumors started floating through the air like dust. When these words reached Kareem, he simply exhaled quietly. He was used to handling business scandals, media attention, and rumors at a large scale. Compared to that, these small whispers didn't bother him, but he didn't want Aisha or Safina to be hurt. One afternoon, while walking outside, Kareem noticed Aisha sitting near the garden, reading a science book. She looked peaceful, but he could sense a shadow behind her smile. He walked toward her gently. "Aisha, may I sit?" She nodded shyly. Kareem sat beside her and asked, "How is school?" Asisha smiled softly. "Good, sir. Teachers say I'm improving." "That makes me very happy," he said, but he could see something in her eyes, something she was hiding. After a moment, Asisha whispered, "Sir, some people in the house are saying things. They say you shouldn't help us so much." Kareem looked at her calmly. "And what do you think?" Aisha thought for a second before answering. "I think people don't know our life. They don't know how much Mama works. They don't know how much I study. They don't see everything." Kareem nodded. "Exactly. People talk because talking is easy. But work is hard. And dreams are harder." Aisha lowered her eyes. "Sir, am I causing trouble for you?" Kareem smiled softly. "You? Trouble?" "No, Aisha, you are not a problem. You are a student with a dream. And people with dreams deserve support." Aisha exhaled in relief. "But," he added gently, "you must learn one thing." She looked up. "When you try to rise, when you try to improve, when you dream big, some people will not understand. That is normal. What matters is that you keep going." Asisha nodded slowly. "I will keep going, sir." He placed his hand on the bench and said, "Good, that is what makes you strong." Later that week, Kareem called a short meeting with the mansion staff. Everyone stood in a circle. Nervous, he spoke calmly but clearly. "I heard some people are discussing why I helped Aisha. Let me explain one thing. When you see a child working hard, it is not weakness to help. It is strength. And helping once doesn't make anyone poor." The room was silent. He continued, "Every person deserves a chance in life. Aisha is only a little girl, but she fights for her future every day. If any child in this house works as hard as she does, I will support them too." Everyone remained silent, but something in the room shifted. The gossip slowly began to fade. Some staff members nodded quietly. Others lowered their heads, realizing their mistakes. But one thing was clear. Kareem had spoken with dignity, not anger. After that day, the whispers became softer. The judgment faded. The atmosphere turned peaceful again. And in the middle of all this, Aisha kept studying day-night, with all her heart, because she now understood something important. No matter how loud the world becomes, a dream becomes stronger when someone believes in you. And the person who believed in her wasn't just a billionaire. He was someone who saw her future before she could see it herself. Years passed quietly, like pages turning in a long book. The mansion changed, the staff changed, seasons changed, but one thing remained steady. Aisha's dedication to her dream. Every morning she woke early to study. Every night she sat at the same bright lamp Kareem had given her years ago. reading until her eyes grew heavy. Her room, once filled with darkness, now overflowed with light, books, trophies, and hope. And all this time, Kareem watched from a distance. He didn't interfere, didn't force, didn't boast. He simply supported her silently. Like a guardian in the background, he saw her grow from a shy little girl into a confident, young woman with a purpose. When Aisha turned 17, she finally took the entrance exam for the medical college she had dreamed about since she was a child. It was one of the most difficult exams in the country. Students from wealthy families hired expensive tutors, went to top coaching centers, and studied with the best resources. But Aisha had something stronger: passion, hard work, and a quiet belief that she was capable. She prepared for months, solving practice papers, reading thick books, and attending free online classes whenever she could. Her mother prayed every night, watching her daughter push her limits. On the morning of the exam, Aisha stood outside the exam center holding her worn-out pen and entry slip. Her heart beat fast, but her eyes were steady. "Just do your best," Safina whispered. "That is enough." Ashu took a deep breath and walked inside. The days after the exam were long. Aisha checked the results website every morning, but it still showed pending. She tried to stay busy by helping her mother with work and studying other subjects. One evening, while she sat at her study table, Kareem knocked gently on the door of their small room. "May I come in?" he asked. Aisha stood up quickly. "Yes, sir." He stepped inside and looked around. Her books were neatly stacked. Her trophies shined on the shelf. The bright lamp illuminated the room. It felt like stepping into a small world built with effort and hope. "How was the exam?" he asked softly. Aisha smiled nervously. "Good, sir. I tried my best." Kareem nodded. "Sometimes that's all we can do. And often it's enough." She felt calmer hearing his words. "Whatever the result is," he added, "remember that you've already made us proud." Ashia lowered her eyes, touched by his kindness. One morning, the result finally came out. Aisha was standing outside the mansion gate, returning from school, when she received a text on her phone. She opened it with shaking hands for a moment. She didn't breathe, then her eyes widened. Her lips parted. Her heart jumped. She screamed, "Mama! Mama!" Safina ran out of the house, panicked. "What happened? Are you okay?" Aisha showed her the screen with tears streaming down her face. "Mama, I got in. I passed. I passed with high marks. They gave me a full scholarship." Safina dropped to her knees, crying out of joy. She hugged her daughter tightly. "You did it, my child. You really did it." The other staff members rushed outside. Some clapped, some hugged Safina. Some congratulated Aisha with genuine happiness. But there was one person Aisha needed to tell before anyone else. She ran inside the mansion, her footsteps echoing through the hallway. She found Kareem in the living room, reading documents, breathing fast. She said, "Sir." The result came. He looked up calmly but with expectation in his eyes. "And?" Aisha held her phone out to him with trembling hands. "I passed, sir. I got into medical college. With scholarship." For a few seconds, Kareem said nothing. His usually steady eyes grew warm, and a rare smile appeared. "Well done, Aisha," he said softly. "You earned this." But Aisha shook her head. "No, sir, I could not do it alone. You helped me when no one else even noticed. You gave me light when I had only darkness. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Her voice broke. "Thank you, sir, for changing my life." Kareem stood up slowly, placed his hand on her shoulder and said, "Aisha, the truth is, you changed your own life. I only removed a few stones from your path. You walked the whole road alone." Tears filled her eyes again. Years passed quickly as Aisha studied in medical college. She faced difficult exams, long nights, stress and pressure. but she never gave up. Her dream carried her forward like a guiding star. Finally, her graduation day arrived. The auditorium was filled with families, students, and teachers. Ashia wore a doctor's white coat and held her graduation cap in her hands. Her mother sat in the front row with pride shining in her eyes, and in the third row, quietly sitting, was Kareem. He didn't want attention. He came only to see her success. When the announcer called the top-performing students, Ashisha's name echoed loudly. Dr. Asha Safina, Academic Excellence Award. The hall erupted with applause. Aisha walked onto the stage with her heart pounding. She accepted the certificate, then turned to the microphone. Her voice was steady, emotional, and full of truth. "I want to thank two people," she said. "My mother, and the man who believed in me when nobody else did." She pointed toward Kareem. The entire hall turned to look. Gasps spread across the room. A billionaire being thanked by a maid's daughter? It was a moment no one expected. Kareem lowered his head shyly as the audience applauded him. Asha continued, "He didn't help me because I was poor. He helped me because he saw my dream. And sometimes, that's all a child needs. Someone to believe." After the ceremony, Asha walked toward Kareem and hugged him politely and respectfully. "Sir, I'm a doctor today because of you," she whispered. Kareem smiled gently. "No, Asha, you're a doctor because you never stopped trying." The sun shone brightly behind them, like the world celebrating her success. Aisha had walked from darkness to light, from a cracked phone screen to a shining future dot, and the billionaire who once passed by her small room at night was now watching her step into a life she once thought was impossible. Her story had shocked everyone, not because of what Kareem did, but because of what kindness can create.